All right. Hello, friends. I am so excited to be here and talk about a super simple but an incredibly important topic. So, everyone knows about IQ, and that's kind of reflects your capacity to learn and to problem solve and do the studious aspect or the learning aspect of book knowledge. And EQ, on the other hand, is your interpersonal skill level. How are you at working inside the dynamic of taking information in through your brain? It's going to travel automatically through the limbic side of your brain or the limbic system of your brain, and then it's going to arrive in the rational part of your brain. How is the EQ measures your capacity to modulate your emotional response to a situation and rationally or logically respond. And unlike IQ, that at this time science believes it is a cemented, unable to be changed, you can't really do anything to affect what your IQ is, you can actually affect, improve, change your EQ or your emotional intelligence. And what's interesting is as researchers began to research EQ and realized there was a second measurement of predicting how someone would succeed in life, what they found is folks with the highest IQs, you would think would outperform those with lower IQs, right? But what they found is folks with the higher IQ, so like those that are considered to have a very high IQ, only outperform folks with an average IQ 20% of the time. Like, let that sink in, like, wow. And folks with an average IQ outperform people with high IQs 70% of the time. So if someone has an average IQ, they actually have a huge advantage in the area of success in real life. Like there's a massive advantage. And why is that? And it's because of their EQ or their emotional intelligence and their ability to relate to people, modulate their emotional response to various situations, and actually have better outcomes in relationship versus their relationship to book learning or studying that type of thing. So EQ can be changed, unlike IQ. So two books that I have for you today that I could go into a lot of different aspects of this, but I want to show you the book, and then I'm going to talk about the, I forget how many different areas of EQ there are, but I'm going to just go over them briefly and describe what they are. And then honestly, I want to assign to you the homework to go get this book. And very rarely do I say, go spend money. But with this, I want you to go spend money and I want you to buy this book. So this is the book. It's called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. The reason I like this book is because when you buy it, and I would buy it new, is it comes with a code that you can go take an EQ test online, and then it grades you. It tells you what areas you're strong in, what areas you're weak in, and then it gives you a 6-month plan. This is not something that you're going to memorize factoids and suddenly tomorrow have this factoid memorized and put it into practice. Memorizing factoids is IQ. Learning new habits, learning new skills, learning new patterns of thought, and then behavior changes based on the change of the pattern of thought is EQ. So it's developing new responses to different experiences and how you modulate the emotional response in how you physically respond is EQ. And that takes time and practice because you've got to be in those different situations to then be able to practice how you respond to that situation. So, you may have different situations in your life that trigger you. That triggering is your instant emotional feeling to a specific situation. And when you feel those emotions, you have a split second to decide how you're going to respond. That's EQ. Okay, so there are, let me get out my book here. There are self-awareness is one part of EQ, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Those are the 4 areas of EQ. And what's really cool about this specific book is you only have to read less than 60 pages. Okay, so that basically outlines what is EQ, what are the different areas, but then the majority of the book or the back of the book are exercises for developing in those 4 areas. Self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management areas of your life. So, you know how you feel like some people just have the it factor? This is the it factor. If you feel like, wow, someone there's just something different about them and they can go and they can master a situation, they can respond well in the situation, they know what to say, they know how to respond, that's EQ. And what's really cool is you can develop the it factor. Having read this book, having taken the test, and I worked my plan for a very short amount of time, it is not something that will that will develop in you without intention and work. You're not just going to wake up one morning suddenly more emotionally intelligent. This is going to be one of those skills that, a lot like exercising and training for a marathon, is going to take intentional training and work. And what I think is also really important, that I think is important in anything you're trying to learn, is having a buddy that knows your strengths and weaknesses, knows what your goals are as far as learning about EQ and developing this in yourself, someone to walk alongside you with it and to hold your feet to the fire, to staying on track with your goals. It's really easy to start out strong and then to lose momentum along the way. Having someone to walk alongside you is critical to success over the long haul. So at the end of the 6 months, what's really cool about this book is you can go back and you can take that test again and see where you're at and see where you've improved, how your answers to their questions have changed, and areas that you've gained strength and skill in, and then areas that still need work. This is not a one and done. In fact, I need to go find out where I can get another code to start again and see, okay, I'm 2.5 years past when I first picked this book up. Where have I improved? Have I improved? And then where do I need to start afresh to begin to develop more? You know, books like Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's just EQ that he's talking about. Being present with people, listening, your listening skills, your connection skills with people, your interest in them. When you're presented with a problem or you're in conflict, how do you respond? How do you help people feel heard and seen? That's all EQ. And those are all skills that with intention, and we throw around the word intention a lot, don't we? Like that's a really kind of a fun word to use when we're teaching about oils and health and wellness is intention. This is another area that we need to apply the word intention to learning and to developing ourselves so that we can be more effective. Now, the other really cool thing about emotional intelligence is it doesn't just apply to your Young Living business. This applies to every relationship in your life. This applies to your marriage. This applies to your connection with your kids. And the other really cool thing is our kids learn from how they watch us, right? And they learn skills. So as you become more emotionally intelligent, you can also transfer that to your children and they can kind of have a jump start on life because they're going to go into life with better emotional intelligence skills. And what did we say at the beginning of the conversation about EQ? What does it affect, or how does it improve success rates, right? If your child has an average IQ, they will outperform high IQ people 70% of the time if they have a high EQ. And EQ can be learned. Really, really, really critical for your success as a business person, really critical for your kids' success in their lives. And this information applies to all areas of your life. So I know this was basically just a plug for this book, but really powerful information in the book. And it's got it's like a step-by-step instructional. And so I would encourage you to go get it. And when you do, take the test and then share your results with someone. If you want to share your results with me, I'd love to hear them. And I'd love to hear what your plan is. All right, Laura.
I had one question for you there.
Yes. Oh,
So in the chat.
Can EQ change from personal to business? I believe it is across the board.
Okay.
Yeah. It's there. It's if you are able to connect and hear and listen and modulate your response in business, you should be able to hear, respond, and modulate across the board in personal relationships.
Okay. So
Now,
if you improve your EQ in a business environment, you know, like you say, I'm going to improve my EQ, it's supposed to affect everything. I'm just thinking of some specific examples of how I've seen people who can, you know, really do well in a business environment with their EQ, but then things are in shambles kind of in their personal life. But I didn't know if that was just, that goes back to habits, I guess, too, and behaviors and
patterns and relationships.
Patterns and relationships. Okay. But you can still have high EQ and I guess be working through toxicity in a relationship too. So, which is, it takes the EQ to recognize it for what it is.
And the EQ of those that you're in relationship with as well, in response, you know, the back and forth is going to affect affect success in that relationship too.
And the same can be said for when you're working with team members and, you know, when you're partnered with somebody, then, you know, helping them if they're open.
Well, I mean, think about it this way. There's the adage that you are or you become like the top 5 people you hang around, right? So the same will be true on your team. If, you know, if you've taken your I or EQ to an 86 and you're dealing with people whose EQ is at a 55, and, you know, that's who the core of your team is, may I suggest that you encourage your team to work on their EQ, because it's going to be really difficult for an 86 to completely influence the 55s and change them unless they catch the vision of intentionally improving their EQ. More likely, they will pull that 86 down.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Other questions? Has anyone done this?
No, but I just hopped on Amazon and swiped instant order. So it's on its way.
Yeah. It's a really, really powerful exercise. And it takes a lot of self-awareness. And, you know, we talk about listening to our bodies and listening to what we're feeling. This is another one of those exercises in self-awareness of, and it's interesting when you look at the science of, you know, all of our brain processes our world through nerve impulses that come up through the spinal cord and go into the brain. Well, when they come in the base of the spinal cord, in order to get to our logic brain, they have to travel through the center, our limbic system. They have to come through there before they can get to our logic brain. So emotional response is instant. Like, it is your first response to situation. The question is can you kind of create this pause before you knee-jerk respond? And anyone who knows me knows this is not a really great skill of mine. I often think before I speak. I mean, speak before I think. Right? I don't have a great, you know, you can call it a filter or whatever, but I am working on improving that. All right, other questions? Oh, yes, a massive EQ increase in our country. Yes. Yeah. Well, and you know what's interesting is, you know, even news outlets are saying our country is running on emotion. Emotions are driving decisions. And if emotion drives decision in your business, good luck. It's not going to happen. And so how do you lead folks who are driven by emotion? You have to create that pause for them. You have to, okay, I can hear you. Let's step back just a minute from the emotion of this and think. And, you know, how do you say that to folks? How do you create that pause so that their logic brain can engage? You know, I mean, you can think back to the most recent holiday launch snafu, right? Like, lots of irrational emotion for folks in that, right? I mean, when you've got high level folks saying, I'm done. Really, you're going to walk away from this because of this. Like, let's step back. Let's let our logic brain engage and make logical choices moving forward. Yeah. And this is a relationship-based business. So anything, guys, anything you can do to improve your ability to have better relationships and connect with people is so powerful. Like there's nothing more powerful that you can do for yourself and your business. In fact, you know what? This would be really fun to do at a retreat. And you know, everybody come with your test taken, and then even create pseudo situations. Because Laura, you've got some talking skills that I envy. And, you know, to develop, okay, kind of I don't want to say scripted responses, but even just to hear a response that would be different than what I would typically say. Okay, everybody write out what your response to this person would be. And then, you know, collectively, okay, who's got the best response, or why is that response not great? I don't know. I'm interested. I'm going to have to play with that idea in my head a little bit and see what could be created to do that. This would be a fun book study to do it on
So
Zoom.
yeah. And do they give you scenarios in the book that you can kind of walk through and work through?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And what's interesting is they go through relationship management, and they'll say, okay, this person, chief financial officer, relationship management score 95, what people say about her. And then someone who has a relationship management score of 66. What do people say about that person who are working with them? And then they self-awareness strategies, keep a journal, watch yourself like a hawk, don't be fooled by a bad mood. You know, we all have bad days, right? Like, so how do you, we all have off days. Know who and what pushes your buttons. And, you know, Laura, that goes back to interpersonal in the home versus at work in the business, and how someone might be strong there, and, you know, feel your emotions physically, lean into discomfort, observe the ripple effect. Like, they give you strategies of, okay, when you're in this situation, objectively kind of, you know, pull up like a helicopter and look down at the situation and observe how your emotions affect other areas. So yeah, they give, but one of the big things that they say is have someone who will give you feedback, who knows you. And, you know, ideally is in the situation with you, that can, you know, that has permission to call you out. And also isn't just gonna fluff give you praise. And then there's like 1-page self-management strategies with, and then there's 17 different strategies to apply. So. All right, other questions?
Thank you, Joy.
Absolutely. I don't feel like I taught a whole lot. I feel like I said, here's the book, go get it.
Good discussion, though. It's understanding what it was about.
Yep. Ooh, I don't know about going into the holiday.